Welcome back to Ask the Educator, a podcast for all professionals involved in medical device processing and sponsored by Healthmark Industries. The education team here at Healthmark has 280 years of combined experience in areas ranging from sterile processing, endoscopy, OR, biomed, to hospital and industry leadership. Our goal is to leverage our collective experience to answer one of your questions each episode, giving you the practical tips you need to succeed in the evolving world of device processing. My name is Kevin Anderson, clinical educator here at Healthmark, and I will be your host. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. This is Kevin Anderson, your host for Ask the Educator. For this episode, Stephen and I are cruising along in our 10 Factors of Cleaning series. This one will be part 5, and we're going to look at how temperature plays a role in cleaning. So, Stephen, thanks for joining me. But first off, what are your initial thoughts about temperature as one of the 10 factors of cleaning?
Well, I think what's important to remember is we need to monitor our temperature. And, what's really nice, Kevin, is we get this data on our podcast that we have people from South Africa, Finland, Thailand, Canada, the UK, Europe, all over the world listening now, plus the United States. And it doesn't matter where you come from, all the standards somewhere in there talk about temperature and monitoring it and the importance of it. And I know for us in the US, we have Joint Commission and other auditing organizations, and they do audit temperature. And if you look at, we've touched about IFUs, if you look at the medical device manufacturers, they support monitoring temperature because it's an important part of many of their products. And when it comes to cleaning chemistry, there's optimal temperature. So monitoring provides you feedback if issues occur to help you resolve that issue, specifically dirty instruments. So that sort of more sounds like your wrap up, but I think we have to lay this foundation that we need to monitor it because a lot of people think hotter is better when it comes to temperature and cleaning, but that's not necessarily right. You need to get the right temperature at the right stage of the cleaning process because it is different. And think of your cleaning solutions, whether it's enzymes or detergent, alkaline, they have optimal temperatures and they work differently. Most enzymes, Kevin, and again, we're talking in general, they like temperature around 120. If they're in too cold of water, they aren't as active and work. And then if it gets too hot, they get destroyed or don't work at all. The other thing is, think of your detergents or your alkaline solutions. They like temperatures that are hotter, and that's very, very important. So again, think of your cleaning solutions, and they have specific temperatures. And are you using the right temperature at each stage? In an automated washer, lower temperature to start to prevent denaturing, and then it gets higher later on to maximize the enzymes or your cleaning detergents. And you have to remember that denaturing action of heat on blood, which is the number one soil we're trying to get rid of, becomes more insoluble and it's harder to clean as it gets more insoluble. So that's why you start with a cold rinse. So you need to use the recommended temperatures for your cleaning solutions and monitor them. And does that sort of make sense as we're starting to build up on temperature, Kevin?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm glad that you brought up the different stages and where we should be monitoring the temperatures. One of the things that I remember learning early on when I converted over to SPD was learning about how enzymatics required a certain temperature range to work effectively. And I thought, being the smart manager that I am, I'm going to do something that's going to make my life easier and the tech's easier. And we switched over to a surfactant-based detergent, which is great. There was no need to monitor the temperature necessarily in terms of the detergent working, like an optimal temp for the detergent. But you just touched on like the very beginning of the process where you're just simply rinsing off the instruments, and how it needs to be. In fact, colder is a little bit better in a lot of ways. And that's something that it's probably very basic, but at the same time, I know that I didn't know that. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that don't know that. So you start your process with the cold water by rinsing, then you go maybe higher depending on what your detergent is, and then you rinse again, and then off to the machines. And I think maybe something else to talk about is how to monitor those temperatures in the automated washers, right?
Yeah, I want to get to that in a minute, but you've really stressed something, and this is what people, I think, tend to forget. No two cleaning chemistries are the same. You buy an automated washer and they set different parameters. Those washers were tested with usually that company's cleaning solution. So if you change something else, each cleaning chemistry has an optimal temperature. So if you're using cleaning chemistry A and its optimal temperature is 150, but you go and use somebody else's, theirs could be 155 or 145 or even 160. So if you want to use that cleaning solution to its maximum, you should be able to work with your automated washer company to help set those temperatures in that process. And that, again, is very important. Some people use enzymes and they are running it at high temperature and then it doesn't work. So knowing that temperature is very, very important. So that gets to this other question of how do cleaning solutions work when it comes with chemistry? And it is the water that interacts with the cleaning chemistry. And we talked about hardness and pH, and hopefully people can see all of this dovetails. But why is it water? Well, water has a higher thermal conductivity. It's 20 times greater than air. Thus, it's an excellent medium for transferring the heat required to destroy organisms. Thus, you must maximize the direct water contact with the surface of the medical device that has to be cleaned or disinfected. We're not talking sterilization, but we know that temperature is important. And so when you think of the medical washer, it offers low to intermediate disinfection here within the U.S. And I know for our international listeners, there's A sub-zero. And Kevin, that could be a whole nother great talk with another expert. But it is the temperature that is important, because to get good cleaning chemistry, good cleaning energy, it's provided by the cleaning agent, the solution, plus good water at the right temperature. How does that temperature in the solution go up and down? Well, the thermal energy is by the water. Is it hot or cold? So if you need it to be 140, you got to heat it up or you cool it down. And then again, the mechanical energy is provided by impingement, and it's whether the solution is hot or cold. So knowing the temperature of your water is important to the cleaning process. And that's why we'll get into that monitoring part, because you said you need to monitor it. And
that's right.
Yes, there's many ways. You as a manager know that if you were Joint Commission or somebody came in another auditing service, they actually asked you, what is the temperature of your manual cleaning bath? Why is that important? They wanted to make sure you were using it correctly so it cleaned the best it could. And that could be a simple monitor on the back wall of your sink, or some of them have dosing machines. You know, I think you had one in your department that it dosed and put a temperature, right, Kevin? Something like that?
Yeah, because we used a surfactant detergent, it did do the dosing, but we did not have a temperature monitor, only because the IFU did not require a temperature monitor for that.
Oh, okay. But see, brought in back that other factor, the IFU. You were following the IFU, said what you needed to do, and it wasn't that important factor in the manual process. But when you go to your sonic, some have heaters, some don't. What is the temperature that the bath is? And your automated washer, I know you could get Ralph or Steve Basile or myself or Mark, you know, in the early days when we were testing, and the Tosi wasn't coming clean, we found out that the temperature was all off, and it was 120, 130 in the first stage where it needs to be cold water, and thus it was denaturing that blood that was on that test scoop on the surrogate device and making it harder to come off, and thus there'd be residue left. So there are ways to monitor it with data loggers and so on. I think that's where you wanted to go, right, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you touched on the different, obviously the stages, right? So you have the rinse in the beginning that's colder, and then you might heat up for the enzymatic, and then you might see even a higher level of heated water in order to accomplish thermal disinfection. This is the part that we all need to be aware of, that is kind of a nice component to the automated washer or an automated cart washer, is that it provides that low-level thermal disinfection, which helps render those devices safe to handle on the other clean side, and something that we have to try and account for, I believe, with the hand wash items. But that being said, it's also one of those items that we should be monitoring within the automated washer, because just because they're automated doesn't mean they're always working, as we know, and we can't see or feel that water. So it's something that we really need to be checking in on and making sure that it's working appropriately.
I want to close with this one little quick story here, and it deals more with temperature and enzymes. And if people read their label on a lot of the enzymes, it'll say to store in a cool place, because enzymes work on a bell curve. Most die or become ineffective when they get into the 140 range. And so the lifespans of enzymes is heavily influenced by storage temperature. And I know we're talking about temperature when we mix it, but we actually had a customer in our early days where they were renovating their sterile processing area, and maintenance moved everything. And they were actually using our Tosi, and machine was working great, everything, it was passing. So during renovation, they took their cleaning solution, and he didn't know this, and they put it into the sterilizer maintenance area behind the sterilizer, where it gets 200 degrees in that. And you've been back there and you know it.
It's like
and
a sauna.
All of a sudden we get this call from this manager. He says, the Tosi isn't working, and the company says it's this and that. And, it always was blaming the Tosi. But if you believe in the test, it tells you something's going on. Well, after we traced everything, we found out his enzymes were right where it was getting as hot as it could be. And so that enzymes that were going into his washer weren't working, and thus the test was failing, and his instruments were even dirty. And thus if you believe in your test, it tells you what's going on. And here, the temperature of where your items were stored was just as important as monitoring the temperature. So again, temperature in everything we do is very important, affects our products in a lot of ways. So hopefully, Kevin, we got under the 15-minute mark here and hit the importance of temperature and monitoring it. What do you think?
No, I think we made our little target, and I think we covered all the bases for this one. And I hope that it will kind of help people to understand how the temperature really plays a role in the cleaning process. I know, again, it's sort of basic information, but it's something that you can't assume that everybody knows. And when it comes to solving those mysteries of tests not passing or maybe dirty instruments, it's one of those factors that we can go and we can look into. So thanks again for joining me, Stephen. I appreciate it.
You know that, Kevin. Thanks for having me go through these, and take care, my friend, okay?
Okay, just to recap this episode, Stephen Kovach helped us understand the role that water temperature plays in the cleaning process. It is important to know what the water temperature should be at each stage of the manual and automated cleaning process. If you have trouble passing cleaning verification tests, or worse, problems with dirty instruments, then water temperature is just one of those 10 factors of cleaning that you should check and monitor. And if you need products or help with how to monitor your water temperature, please feel free to reach out to your HealthMark sales rep. Healthmark has a wide variety of products that will help you to monitor your water temperature throughout manual and automated cleaning processes. I want to thank you for listening. If you have any questions for us to address on the show, you can send it to us in an email at asktheeducator@hmark.com. That's asktheeducator@hmark.com. All opinions expressed on this show are those of the presenters. Before using any medical device, it is important to review the device manufacturer's instructions for use.